Point of order has been withdrawn. The chair recognizes Mr. Shaheen.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members, Senate Bill 37 ensures degrees earned in Texas are of value and prepare students for success, both in life and in the workforce. This proposed legislation makes clear that Texas students, parents, and taxpayers should expect when educating our future workforce. SB 37 requires courses in Texas colleges be foundational and fundamental to a sound post-secondary education, be necessary to prepare students for civic and professional life, equip students for participation in the workforce and betterment of society, and ensure a breadth of knowledge while meeting educational standards. To ensure Texas universities are used to educate students to serve the interests of the Lone Star State and having a well-formed, productive citizens, SB 37 addresses the following problems. Currently, there's a lack of oversight and review of general education curriculum, leading to courses that may be outdated or misaligned with workforce needs. Some degrees and certification programs lack workforce relevance and have low enrollment. Faculty senates sometimes operate without clear definitions of their roles, potentially leading to conflicts or encroachment on administrative responsibilities. There are gaps in understanding of governance responsibilities. And finally, universities lack a centralized mechanism for handling compliance and complaints. These problems are addressed by SB 37. By having governing boards conduct reviews of curriculums at least once every 5 years and consider the cost and time to complete a degree, presidents shall review minor degrees and certification programs once every 5 years to identify programs with low enrollment that may require consolidation or
Mr.
elimination.
Ms. Howard, for what purpose?
Would the gentleman yield for some questions?
Would you yield, Mr. Shaheen?
I'm almost done.
Okay, thank you.
Not
The
at this time.
The governing boards will approve or deny those decisions. Governing boards will approve or deny the hiring of the provost, deputy associate, and assistant provost, and may overturn hiring decisions for vice president or dean. Faculty senates are advisory only with no decision-making authority, although the governing board exercises ultimate authority over institutional oversight, financial stewardship, and policy. There is shared governance, allowing for the appropriate consultation with faculty, administrators, and other stakeholders. And presidents will conduct annual evaluations of vice presidents, provosts, and deans. And lastly, members, the Higher Education Coordinating Board must create an office of the Ombudsman that will act as an intermediary between institutions, the public, and the legislature, and investigate complaints. So members, the focus of SB 37 is to ensure degrees earned in Texas are of value and prepare our students for success both in life and in the workforce. Thank you, members.
Ms. Howard, for what purpose?
Would the gentleman yield?
Will you yield, Mr. Shaheen?
Yes, sir, I'd be happy
He will.
to.
Go ahead, Ms. Howard.
Well, first off, thank you, Mr. Shaheen. Would you, that last sentence you stated about the institutions, what did you say?
It's to ensure degrees earned in Texas are of value and prepare students for success both in life and in the workforce.
Is there some question that that's not happening right now?
I think if you look across the state of Texas, there's varying degrees, and so the objective of this legislation is to provide consistency with respect to our curriculum and the degrees that we're offering our students.
Would you not recognize that we are the 8th largest economy in the world with some of the most highly respected institutions in the world, and that they are truly the engines of our economic prosperity?
Oh, I absolutely would. They're one of the large reasons why we have so many companies moving to the state of Texas, because of the workforce that they produce. I would absolutely agree with that.
So there is some concern then about what the purpose of this bill is and how it might impact that. Would you agree that, I know you talked about shared governance, that it actually changes the governance structure to where it's more of a top-down structure, where the faculty is now more advisory? Is that not the case?
Well, the faculty senates were always intended to be advisory in nature. What I would say is look at the Board of Regents as your governing board of either a public or a private entity. So that's really the idea that's meant for boards of regents, so this legislation affirms that.
So boards of regents are going to be involved with a lot of hiring decisions apparently in this bill. Could you clarify how giving governing boards veto power over department hires like vice president and deans improves student outcomes?
Yeah, absolutely. So the governing board has mission statements, and they're the leadership with respect to the institution. So they'll have that oversight so that their mission of the university will in fact be implemented by the leadership of those institutions. And again, they're only doing at the top level of the leadership, so it's not like they're going down into the several hundred positions that might be open at an institution.
But it is something they don't currently do.
I'm sorry?
It is something that they do not currently
Today,
do.
they only have oversight over the selection of the president. This legislation takes that down to the provost, assistant provost, and they also can reverse the hiring decision of a vice president and a dean.
So those are decisions that are currently made by the president, who is responsible to the Board of Regents.
That's accurate.
But now the Board of Regents is going to go down into where the president, making decisions about hires that the president normally would have made.
But I would only view it as oversight. So again, the president will still go through that process, and I would view the Board of Regents as more of an oversight function for those.
And I know in the bill it indicates that it's, the faculty senate is going to be limited to 60 faculty, with half of them appointed by the board. Did you know that like UT Austin has almost double that number, so significantly reducing the size of the faculty and changing how the faculty are determined? The faculty senate is determined by only 30 members would be elected by faculty and the rest appointed by the board, where currently they have 113 members. Did you know that?
It is accurate that it's limiting the number to 60. That is accurate. The feeling is that's a sufficient number to reflect the desires of the faculty at large. So
Based on
that is
what?
accurate.
Based on what?
If you look at across the state of Texas and the average size of the senates or faculty, the faculty senates.
Don't we have institutions that are of varying sizes, though, and
That's true.
so one size fits all here,
Well,
no
no, it's
matter
just
what the size?
maximum.
I'm
I
sorry?
think it's maximum of 60.
Just another couple of questions.
Sure.
I'm going to turn it over to some others, but looking at what's involved with curriculum decisions, is it correct that this bill requires governing boards to review and approve decisions as granular as the changes to general education curriculum or minor certificate program offerings? So I know that in the language in the bill it says require minor degree and certificate programs that have specific industry data to substantiate workforce demand to avoid consolidation or elimination. That would really severely impact a whole lot of offerings that our higher education institutions make, would it not?
Well, the portion of the bill that you're referring to is where the president is required at least once every 5 years to review those minor degrees and certificates and ensure that they're in alignment with the workforce needs. So it's once every 5 years.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Speaker,
Ms. Gervin Hawkins, for what purpose?
will the gentleman yield for a couple
Would
questions?
you yield, Mr. Shaheen?
Yes, sir, I'd be happy to.
Thank you. Representative Shaheen, you know, this bill is quite important, and it impacts our, not just today, but into the future. So I just want to get clarity. You know, I have a constituency base that are concerned, naturally, but I hope today we can resolve some of those concerns. So one of my questions is, are we collecting any data about the physical impact of this bill to the university and/or to the greater community where those universities are located? Does this bill do any of that?
This bill is silent on that issue. However, I will tell you one of the large objections of the bill is, as they're reviewing the curriculums, as they are reviewing the degrees, is come up with ways that these degrees can be achieved faster and at a less cost of effect. So that's the objective, but there is no mechanism here to measure it.
The overall impact?
No, but that doesn't. say
Okay.
somebody can't do that, but the objective is to get degrees faster, they're more valuable, and they're less expensive.
And so, but my other question is,
The gentleman's time has expired.
will we extend the time, please, Mr. Chair?
There are no exceptions in the last 10 days. There are no extensions.
What's that? Mr. Speaker, I move passage.
Amendments. The following amendment? No. Is Mr. Wu on the floor of the House? The following amendment, the clerk will read the amendment.
Amendment by Wu.
Chair recognizes Mr. Wu to explain the amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members, out of respect for the members who have been negotiating on this bill, I will pull this down, but I just want to talk about it for just 2 seconds. This particular amendment deals with an issue that's very important to me, and that is academic freedom to speak. This is an issue that we have tackled again and again and again about whether employees of the state, employees of public institutions have the right to speak their minds and how much freedom they have to do that. The amendment itself is about faculty's ability to speak up against what is happening in their school, about the governance, about their policies, about their decisions, but this is talking about a larger issue of, I think there is an overall attempt to silence our academic leaders, to silence our teachers, and to silence people that people don't agree with.
Mr. Speaker,
Ms. Gervin Hawkins, for
will
what
the gentleman
purpose?
yield for questions?
Would you yield, Mr. Wu?
I will.
She will.
And I think your amendment hit on my question I was trying to get in terms of professors, because we want them to be clear that they're not in violation of certain things. And I think it's important that it's based on the rewrite, and I did hear from Representative Wilson that things, have gotten better. It's more open, and I love that. But will a teacher or professor, I'm sorry, get into trouble through certain actions they may take? And when you read the rewrite, was there any protections for them? Because we want to make sure our professors are not in violation.
And that is the real fear of this bill, that there are so many provisions in here that could be used improperly, that because of the ambiguity of the way it's drafted, the way the definitions are worded, that you could find reasons to using this new legislation to go after members, to go after faculty members.
So
and especially faculty members who disagree with the school for whatever reason. They may not have anything to do with anything particular of dealing with their performance or with their job. but simply saying, I disagree with the school's policy on X. I disagree with the school's policy on campus protests or free speech or whatever it is. Or I disagree with the way that they're handling grants. I disagree with how much money they're keeping in endowment and everything else.
So
And-
Representative Wu, if they bring up any race questions or race theories, will they get in trouble?
No, absolutely, and that is the point of this, is that the fear is that teachers or the professors, that faculty who bring up issues, who are champions of issues that may be uncomfortable for other people, whether they champion rights for minority communities, whether they're championing LGBTQ rights, whether they're championing political issues, maybe they're a big gun control advocate, whatever it is. The fear is that they would use those opportunities, use those things, and use what's in this bill to find a way to silence them.
So
And then creating fear and a chilling effect throughout the rest of the faculty.
So Representative Wu, are you saying that, based on your interpretation of the bill as it stands today, that if there was a history lesson on African American, on Black history, on slavery, that professor may get in trouble?
It's potential, but I think what I am more concerned about is the ability and the right of employees and of faculty and of any state and public official to go home and make statements about what their own personal political beliefs are, what they believe in, what the causes they want to support. And again, the amendment here specifically talks about faculty who have disagreements with the school about the way the school is being run, because we will foresee that is probably one of the issues that would most likely annoy a school, annoy the administration, and saying, hey, we need to do something about this person. So the point of this amendment, even though it doesn't cover all that much, and doesn't cover free speech in its entirety, the point of it is saying that especially speech that is about the operation of the school, that is about the administration, that is about their policies, or about the way the faculty senate is being run, or anything like that.
So Representative Wu, you don't believe that the bill in its current status, updated, protects those professors that may talk about race, sexual identity, social, political, religious belief. You don't believe that the protections are there?
I do not, and I do not support this bill. I think the existing law that we have provides all the protections that are needed, both for the academic, for the professor, for the faculty staff, but also for the public. The institutions have a right to police what their employees do, but at the same time, we want to recognize that they have a right to speak.
And my final question is, because I'm concerned too that we don't have enough time to hear from the bill author about what it will do to these people, who would be the complainer? Could that be anyone? Could that be a disgruntled colleague? Could that be a student that could raise an issue?
I think the way the bill was originally, I believe, yes. I'm not 100% sure on what is being proposed right now. I think the things are being worked out. So again, the point is that I believe this bill has a very strong chilling effect on speech. It sends a loud and clear message to those in the academic world that they are not free to speak.
Thank
And
you,
I think that's a
Representative.
very bad thing in
Thank you for
this
answering
country.
my question.
And with that, I'll withdraw the amendment.
Well, I'll say it again. The amendment has been withdrawn. Does anyone want to speak on, for, or against Senate Bill 37? Chair recognizes Ms. Howard to speak against the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and members. I rise today in respectful opposition to Senate Bill 37. At its core, this bill drastically shifts how we govern our higher education institutions by layering additional top-down oversight on curriculum development, hiring, and faculty governance. And while I recognize the intent may be to increase transparency and ensure accountability, I urge you to take a closer look at what this bill actually does and the message it sends to our public universities and colleges. The bill mandates that every 5 years, university governing boards must conduct a sweeping review of general education curricula, essentially reopening decisions that are already made by experts on each campus. It allows boards to overturn faculty decisions and weigh in on course content, including vague language around what can and cannot be promoted in terms of race, sex, or religion. Our institutions already go through rigorous curriculum review processes. They're held to accreditation standards that demand broad-based knowledge and workforce readiness. Injecting politically appointed governing boards, often composed of individuals without subject matter expertise, into the process of approving or rejecting general education requirements risks politicizing what should be an academic conversation. And when we talk about workforce readiness, we can't ignore the review process for so-called low enrollment degrees and certificates. And while I agree that our institutions must be responsive to our workforce needs, this bill imposes a rigid process that could eliminate valuable academic programs, particularly in the humanities and social sciences. These programs cultivate critical thinking, civic engagement, and cultural literacy. In fact, many of, if not most all of us in this room, in this building, for example, actually have degrees in the humanities or social sciences, and I would suggest that we are here doing the people's business using critical thinking skills that we got as a result of those degrees. These are essential to a strong democracy and healthy economy. Further, this bill drastically redefines shared governance, not by affirming its importance, but by essentially gutting it. Faculty senates, which have long served as voices for academic standards and student success, are reduced to advisory-only bodies. And we are eliminating existing faculty councils across Texas institutions unless they are explicitly reapproved by governing boards. That is not governance, that is control. Faculty are not political operatives. They are researchers, teachers, innovators, many who left the private sector to serve the next generation. We are sending them a message that they are no longer trusted to do their jobs. And I worry what message that sends to future faculty candidates deciding whether or not to come to Texas. I also want to express concerns about the creation of a new Office of the Ombudsman at the Coordinating Board, an office that can investigate complaints, recommend budget freezes, and issue civil investigative demands. We already have accountability structures in place, including accreditation, legislative oversight, and institutional audits. Do we really need another layer of enforcement with such broad and undefined authority? How doge is that? Mr. Speaker and members, I want to be very clear. I believe in accountability. I believe in efficiency. I believe in preparing students for the workforce. But I also believe in local governance, in institutional autonomy, and in trusting our experts to do the job that they've been hired to do. The bill is not about improving education. It is about increasing control. It threatens academic freedom, it undermines faculty voices, and it injects politics into the classroom at a time when we should be laser-focused on expanding access, improving student outcomes, and restoring trust in our education systems. So I ask you, please consider whether this bill strengthens our higher education system or whether it erodes the very foundations of what it makes us as one of the best in the country. If this passes, are we biting the hand that feeds us? I respectfully urge you to vote no on Senate Bill 37.
Chair recognizes Mr. Perez to speak against the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members, I rise in opposition to SB 37 because of its potential to do lasting damage to our colleges, our economy, and our Texas values. For those who value academic excellence and freedom of thought, I urge you to vote against SB 37. First, let's start with principles. Academic freedom is not an abstract luxury. It is the lifeblood of a great university and a free society. The U.S. Supreme Court recognized that, quote, teachers and students must always remain free to inquire, to study, and to evaluate. Otherwise, our civilization will stagnate and die. SB 37 flies in the face of that ideal. It empowers bureaucrats and political appointees in Austin to intimidate educators and second-guess curricula. We've heard warnings in committee that this bill will lead to professors to self-censor and students will learn less about the world. Do we really want a future where Texas students only get a state-sanctioned, sanitized version of history or science, where controversial topics are avoided for fear of some tip-line complaint? That is not education. What problem are we solving here? Some of SB 37's backers are concerned about indoctrination at our universities and ensuring that degrees have value. We all support quality education and workforce readiness, but our universities are already delivering that. Texas higher ed is a success story. 22 of Texas's universities rank among the world's best. Our public campuses drive innovation, including entrepreneurs, teachers, engineers, and scholars who fuel our economy. If anything, other states envy Texas. Yet instead of celebrating that, this bill would micromanage and politicize a system that isn't broken. The people who actually work in our colleges overwhelmingly say, please do not do this. They know it will invite a tsunami of meritless complaints and meddling that will drive away talent. Top professors who might come to Texas or stay here will instead choose states that value academic freedom. And members, let me remind you, our own Texas, University of Texas Chancellor, Chancellor Milliken, left our state and the University of Texas system for California. Whatever that reason is, we need to ask ourselves, why is our top talent here from the state of Texas leaving our state for states like California? We risk a brain drain just when we've worked to build a world-class research university system. The fiscal cost of that brain drain in lost grants, lost business, and lost intellectual capital will dwarf any benefit of this bill. Proponents also argue about accountability, but we already have robust oversight in higher ed. We must ask ourselves, do we trust Texas's own university leaders, or do we think a new state committee in Austin knows better than what it is at Sul Ross or at Prairie View University? Then there's the glaring financial costs. SB 37 creates an ombudsman's office to investigate campuses, 5 new state employees, nearly $800,000 a year in taxpayer cost. In addition, it creates unfunded mandates to our universities who have to respond to new complaints from this new government office in the ombudsman. This is less money that makes its way to students. Who ultimately is going to pay for those additional complaints? Our universities. Remember, every dollar we force universities to spend defending against frivolous complaints or reorganizing curricula is a dollar that is not going to scholarships, labs, or campus safety. And if a university actually lost funding under this bill's penalties, who are we punishing? Students and local economies. And let me be clear on course content. Racism or sexism has no place in teaching. On that, we all agree. But our universities are not teaching hate. When our universities are doing their job well, they should be confronting the hard truths in our history and our society. We should be encouraging more of that instead of taking steps towards government policing on the exchange of ideas. In closing, I urge you to look beyond the political pressure of this moment. We as lawmakers are the governing board for the people of Texas. But we shouldn't be the governing board for every university classroom. SB 37 would set a dangerous precedent, eroding the tradition of shared governance in higher education. Once we do that, what message do we send to the nation and to the world? That Texas no longer trusts its educators? That we prefer state control, reminiscent, frankly, of countries that we consider far less free? We'd be imitating the very tendencies we warn our students about: heavy-handed government that stifles the free exchange of ideas. We all believe in a strong Texas, a Texas that leads. Our universities are a big reason why companies move here and why families stay here. Let's not cripple them out of fear that a course in women's studies or ethnic studies turns someone into a raging liberal. Let's have the confidence in our students to reject SB 37. Texas doesn't need a capital thought police to get a good education.
Ms.
We need
Flores,
freedom.
for what purpose?
Mr. Speaker, does the gentleman yield for a question?
Mr. Perez, will you?
Yes.
I'm almost done.
Not at
Okay.
this-
I'll
We
let
need
you finish.
freedom and openness, which have made our higher ed system great. And with that, members, I urge you to vote against SB 37 and preserve the academic freedom that has made Texas great.
Ms.
With that-
Perez, for what purpose? Excuse
yes,
me,
does
Ms.
the
Flores,
gentleman-
for what purpose?
Ms. Flores, yes.
Ms.
Does the
Ms.
gentleman
Flores,
yield for
what
question?
purpose?
Yes, I yield for questions.
Ms.
Thank you.
Perez will yield.
Thank you for your comments. And don't you agree that universities are supposed to be centers of excellence and exchange, a place where students can have curiosity and learn about different issues and topics?
Our universities need to be hubs of freedom of thought and freedom of expression. No doubt that's ultimately what makes universities great. The concerning aspect of this bill is that it creates curriculum review committees. To me, this is just the most anti-Texas thing that you can put in a bill. It creates curriculum review committees where you put bureaucrats who are going to oversee and potentially overturn certain aspects and certain courses. So the question we need to ask ourselves, okay, well, how many courses in women's studies is too much? How many courses in ethnic studies are too much? How many are foundational? How many, contribute to the workforce? We're leaving those types of questions up to bureaucrats and not educators. And to me, that's a very dangerous precedent.
And wouldn't you say that we are limiting the students' choices of taking, like my sister, for example, who got her degree in philosophy because she wanted to learn about what the great minds thought and the philosophers thought, and where are new philosophers going to come from if not through our universities? Isn't that true?
No, absolutely. Again, originally this bill was much more expansive in scope. The current version of the bill, it gives a provision that it's going to focus on general core curriculum, but then there's another line right after that that says, but then pretty much any other course that leads to a degree requirement. So really, any sort of elective, any sort of degree major is going to be affected by this bill. This bill does not just affect the general core curriculum, but opens up every potential course. Every course leading to a degree, every course leading to an elective is going to be potentially reviewed up to an appointed committee.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Toth, for what purpose?
Will the gentleman yield for a
Will you
question?
yield, Mr.
I
Perez?
yield for questions.
Member, I'm sorry, Representative, could you finish this statement for me? From the river to the sea. Can you finish that for me?
I don't.
From the river to the sea. Can you finish that statement
no.
for me? You can't? You don't think there's any hatred being spewed on our college
Again,
campuses?
that is not being taught. Is that a course that's being taught?
It's being taught to our children. Yes, absolutely.
Are you
Thank you.
conflating student expression and courses that are being taught? I mean, I just want the record to show the gentleman came and asked a question and then walked away from the podium. But he's conflating the freedom of expression made by students on a campus versus actual course content. And that is the real danger with this bill.
The gentleman's time has expired. Chair recognizes Mr. Shaheen to close on the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members, this is a bill you can be proud to vote for. This does absolutely nothing to dampen free expression by faculty or teachers. What it does do, this is a bill about governance, and the end result is going to be the degrees that your children and grandchildren graduate with are going to be more valuable. They're going to be able to get those degrees faster, and they're going to be less expensive, and those degrees are going to be more in alignment with the future needs of employers in the state of Texas. And with that, I move passage.
Mr. Dutton, for what purpose?
Will the gentleman yield for a question?
Will you yield, Mr. Sheen?
Sure, I'd be happy to.
Gladly.
As I understand this bill, this puts the Board of Regents more into the operation, the day-to-day operation of the university. Is that fair to say?
I would characterize it more as its stronger oversight,
Okay, but
because the day-to-day operations are still left to the leadership, to the president, the vice presidents, the deans.
yeah, but the oversight of that, they already have the oversight of that, correct?
Yes, but there's oversight that they haven't been doing in the past that this legislation is having them do, like the curriculum reviews, like the president reviewing the degrees and the like.
Well, that seems to me to be putting the Board of Regents more into the operation of the university, though.
Now, the day-to-day operations are still very much by the president and the other leadership. They're acting more like a board of directors that a corporation would.
But is that not what they were doing already?
No,
Or
if you look-
supposed to be doing, at least?
They were supposed to, but for example, the reviews of the curriculums, looking at degrees every 5 years to see if they're aligned well with the needs of the workforce. Some universities were doing that, and quite frankly, some weren't. And so this puts structure around that so that those types of items are executed.
So when you say put structure around it, you mean that the university president, for example, and staff can make a decision that the Board of Regents could override.
There's some cases where that's true, that's right.
And so, and I just wonder if you had any comment about, I had a bill that your chairman didn't let get heard, which would have allowed the TSU Thurgood Marshall School of Law to report directly to the Board of Regents. I don't know if you were aware of that or not.
No, sir.
Okay, but because it seems to me that what this does is, in the same spirit in which I offered that bill, but it simply didn't get a hearing, and I was curious as to why.
I'm sorry, sir, I'm not advised.
Okay.
I'm not aware of that. I'm sorry.
And so, and finally, you're not. Is there another state that employs the same process as what this bill does in terms of its universities and Board of Regents?
I haven't really looked at other states. The intent here is to do these reviews so that these degrees are more in alignment with the workforce. You can get there faster and they're less expensive. Whether other states are doing that or not, I'm not aware.
So there's no other state that's actually doing this the way Texas would be doing it under this bill?
I haven't done an evaluation of what other states do, so
Okay.
I don't have the answer to your question.
Right. Well, yeah, but the reason for this bill, if I can understand it, is that you believe all those things are not being. Mr. Speaker, could we have order? Something's going on out here that I can't.
Members, please take your conversations outside the rail. Please.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And I know some of these people are already being held hostage to voting for this bill, but I think this is important to most of the people here, that we don't find another state that engages the process the way this bill anticipates. Is that correct?
I'm sorry, say it one more time. Are you asking me if there are other states that are implementing this?
The way this bill presupposes that the university would conduct itself is not being done by any other states.
I don't have the answer to your question.
Okay, and if that's true, though, that would cause Texas not to be able to attract the kind of university professors we would like to have in this state.
No, I would totally disagree with that.
You don't believe that will happen?
I believe if this is implemented, you have a curriculum that's way more in alignment with the needs of the state of Texas now, and that we develop a workforce that aligns with the workforce needs 20, 30, 40 years from now. Quite frankly, I think professors from across the nation would want to be a part of that. So I don't agree with your conclusion.
But that presupposes, though, that the Board of Regents know better than the people in the university.
They have an oversight role to play, but
Yeah,
again,
but most of them
they're
have-
leaving the day-to-day management to the president, the vice president, the dean, the provost. They're just playing a very appropriate oversight
Yeah,
role.
but most of the people on the Board of Regents have other jobs. They don't limit themselves.
So do most corporate boards.
Right. And so, Mr. Speaker, can we go outside or something, or
Members, can we have some silence so Mr. Dutton can hear Mr. Shaheen?
in fact, shut up?
Well, Mr. Dutton, I
Okay,
don't think
thank
we
you.
need to go that far, but members,
Well,
would you
we-
please
we need to
move
go
your
as-
conversations outside the rail? Thank you, Mr. Dutton.
Thank you.
I'll go outside
I mean,
and
'cause
have
I
a
couldn't
cigar
hear.
with you and talk about
I
all this
couldn't
if you
hear Mr. Shaheen, and I'm sure that.
You may not have heard I was going to offer to go outside with you right now, have a cigar, and walk around the Capitol grounds and talk about this bill.
You got a date.
Okay, baby.
All right. But what I want to be sure of is, though, that we are not harming the universities in the state of Texas.
The universities in the state of Texas, after this is implemented, are going to be stronger. The
Do you think
degrees
they'll be
that
better off?
100%. The degrees that are going to be offered are going to be more valuable. Our students are going to have greater opportunity for their careers in the state of Texas, and it's going to attract more professors, more jobs, and more individuals. There's already 1,000 people moving to the state of Texas every day. The changes in our careers, the changes in our job titles, the changes in technology are happening rapidly. Corporations are struggling to keep up with that. So
And you think that
what this
this-
bill does 100% aligns the curriculum, aligns our degrees, and aligns our certificates with what the employers in this state and the future employers of this state need. 100%, absolutely.
And you feel comfortable this bill will do that?
Yes, and the reason why I do is because we've received input from multiple universities across the state of Texas, and they were very much a part of crafting this legislation. So this legislation was not done in a silo. We received input from several universities across the state of Texas.
And would you say the universities like this bill?
They're neutral on the bill, but I will tell you that they provided a significant amount of input, and their input was received. But officially, they're neutral on the bill.
But I'm sure that's what we kind of require in the legislature, for them to take a neutral
They're
position.
neutral, yeah.
But I guess my question is more intensive than that, and it's whether they would like to see this bill passed.
I will tell you that me and Chairman Wilson have spent countless hours with multiple universities from across our state. We've received their input that they've provided.
And almost.
I don't think they'll be disappointed in the passage of this bill at all.
And if somehow or another you're wrong, will you come back to this legislature and see if we can't undo this? Because what I'm afraid of is that Texas universities are able to compete in most cases with universities all over this country. And that's their past history. And so now we're making such a change, it concerns me that they could no longer occupy that position.
Our
if this passes.
universities are going to be significantly stronger with this implemented because they're going to produce the workforce decades from now. They're going to be more in alignment with the needs of our employers than if we were not to do this. So I can promise you right now, the universities in the state of Texas are going to be much stronger. The degrees that they offer are going to be more valuable, and the students that graduate with these degrees are going to have greater careers than if this bill
The
didn't
gentleman's
pass.
time has expired.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. Mr. Speaker, I move passage.
The question occurs on final passage of, excuse me, Senate Bill, the question occurs on passage to third reading of Senate Bill 37. A record vote has been requested. A record vote is granted. The clerk will ring the bell. Show Mr. Garcia voting no. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? Being 83 ayes, 53 nays, Senate Bill 37 passes to third reading.
Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Alcott, for what purpose?
Yes, parliamentary inquiry.
State your inquiry.
Mr.